Alright, so the current setup here is going to be this Motorola Surfboard SBG6580, and this serves as both a modem and a Wi-Fi, or as a router. I got it close there. So the cable that's coming in the back there, and why there's an adapter on the back, I don't know. That's how the cable company set it up. But we originally had a Time Warner router box, modem box, and they were charging us like a monthly fee for having that, so I just went and bought this one instead. And then I got a 90-degree angle connector. I don't know if that's called an F connector on the back there, and then this is the cable that comes from the basement. So this was in the basement, and it was right where the line came in. And then what I had was a what was it? It was an NTEC wireless router in this spot, because this being in the basement right by the connection gave absolutely no reception, which I don't know anything about setting up a network, but that is definitely not the place you wanted, is in the basement, because it did not do anything. So what I did was I used my old router, since this is a router and a modem, and I used it as like a piggyback to give us signal in the rest of the house here. And then from that point I put in a booster box out in the shed, which is right, you can kind of see the shed there, back there, because I can't get reception through that tin. And I set that up in the window to connect with the router that was in here. Well, long story short here, it's been really difficult to use, and it's been extremely slow. And finally I decided I was going to get a new router for this position and send it out. But before I did that, I was like, why don't I move this one? So I went and bought 50 feet worth of this RG6 quad shield cable and connected it down in the basement. I'll show you that. So there's the connection. This line here is the one from the power pole, and then there's like a grounding block in there, and this is the new line that I ran. Now before that I had this box mounted down here, and part of the reason for that was I have my generator sub panel over here, so there's a power outlet down here that'll be energized, so I figured we'd always have internet. Well, turns out when the power goes out, Time Warner doesn't push out signal either, so there's really no reason to have that on there anyway. So the way I had this hooked up was the modem slash router here, and then the connection came into there, and then instead of this I had Cat 5 line running, and it plugged into the back of that modem, and that ran to the same room, and then that fed that wireless router, and I'll show you that. Right, so this is the router that we had, and I believe I called it an NTEC. It's a Netgear. This is an old unit. I think we had this before we had the other setup, and what can I tell you about this? It's slow, and oh, it's a wireless G, and I think that's the slower of the two speeds now. Regardless, I don't know, maybe this one was slowing down. Maybe I'd never set it up right, because like I said, I had to plug in one of these ports here with that Cat 5 line, and that came from my modem slash wireless, and then that gave us Wi-Fi. Also, for some reason when I set this one up, this was a non-private network, so anyone could log on to this. So basically the signal we and everyone else probably in the neighborhood used was this signal here. So I really didn't like that, and I thought maybe that's another reason why it's running slow. So I took that out, and then I moved the other one upstairs. The speed now is wicked fast. Like, I would say 3 or 4 times the speed. Before, you couldn't like load a YouTube video and watch it. You'd have to like pause it and wait for it to load. Now you can watch it as it's playing. We by no means have the fastest internet. I have the cheapest internet Time Warner has. I think it's like $15 a month. So if that tells you anything, I don't know what the speed is, but they're always advertising this super fast internet for $50. I'm like, you know what? It's more than fast enough for what we do. And we have a couple couple Wi-Fi devices, iPads, stuff like that. So then the other thing is we have this laptop down here. Now this laptop, the screen is detachable, or has become detachable because of my, at the time, 3-year-old decided to remove the screen. The screen somehow has some sort of antenna built in to pick Wi-Fi up because the thing would not pick up any Wi-Fi. And you can see there's a wire or something broke here. It's got to have something to do with it. And I tried soldering one on the other side, but nothing worked. So anyway, I had this in the basement, and it would kind of work, even though that other Wi-Fi router modem was just back there. It still wouldn't pick up enough signal over here. So what I did was, with that old Cat 5 line that I had, the other end was stripped because that was in like an outlet, or yeah, like an outlet hookup. I plugged it into here, and then I ran that up the wall, and it goes across here, and that goes over to where it was plugged in, so it's still an outlet, and I'll show you what I did with that in a second. But now this computer has internet, it's fast, and it has a detachable screen. So here's the setup that comes to that surfboard Motorola now. So this is the cable that comes from the basement, this top one here, and this is a custom-made plate here. It was actually just a plate that had that Cat 5 connector, or the square box that you could put any type of insert in. And luckily I had a hole big enough behind here that I just opened this up with a 1/2-inch hole and ran this through. Now I may put a grommet in here or something just to make that look a little bit neater, or I may just leave it. Honestly, at this point, it really doesn't bother me. So on the other side is where that Cat 5 line comes from the computer, and then this Cat 5 line, I believe it's Cat 5, I don't think it's 6, that goes to the back of this. So that's what powers then, or gives the Wi-Fi or the internet access to the computer downstairs that no longer has the Wi-Fi that works. So yeah, so that's pretty sweet. And then I'll show you what I had to do in the steel building here. Alright, and that is my, I think it's pronounced Linksys RE6500. I think it's a 1200 AC max, whatever that means. Dual band. I only have one band apparently when I set it up though. I only have the 2, say, gigahertz, I don't know, GHz versus the 5. So it asked me if I had another network, and I said no, I don't. All I have is that one. So, and the way I have this set up now, believe it or not, I have actually more service out here, or speed connection, whatever you want to call it, with that other unit being set up, you know, on the other side of that wall there. So that's pretty good. I did have to reconfigure that because it was set up for the old one. And like I said, I don't think I set up that other NTech router the correct way, because like I said, the connection was open to anyone. It did some really weird things. It renamed, or it was named Motorola, which was the same name as the other one, so there was confusion there. I constantly had to reset the network adapter, whatever that means. It would always have like IP address is invalid, and I thought I changed all that. I know I asked some people at work who do tech, and like they looked at me like I had 3 heads when I said, well, how do I set up a router to use as like an extender? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, do you do this, this, and this? And they're like, sounds like you know more than I. So I don't know, but this is pretty much just a plug and play deal. So I had to reset it because it was still set for the old system. And once I reset it, it was like 3 clicks, and boom, I had connection out here. Super fast. I'm almost getting, I think, 4 bars to the window. So that's really good. Like that's almost a full signal strength. So this is just taking that then and boosting that signal, which is 4. Because if I sat the laptop down here, I'd lose signal because it just would not pick up through that wall, which is like, I don't even know, there's a 2x4 that's in there flat, 1.5 inches, and then there's 1.5 inches foam between the 2x4s, 6 inches of bad insulation, 1/2 inch drywall, and then there's, I don't know what the gauge tin is, but it's pretty heavy duty steel on the outside of the building. So there you go, that's the whole setup. I don't think that like the average person can't tackle a project like this. It's not super difficult. But don't think that you need to spend thousands of dollars in equipment, because I didn't. I bought this, which this was enough, but I didn't have to buy anything else. Sometimes it's just the placement where you have it, and higher up you have it, it seems like the better off it works. We even got full wireless in the basement. I think we got 3 out of the 5 bars, which is pretty good considering where everything's placed. So there you go, complete wireless system.